back to Ex-Care Kids Scotland. As you know, I'm Thomas Martin, the founder of Ex-Care Kids Scotland. So in today's video, as you know, on this channel I've been posting about my experience with in-care, and I've been posting other videos on, how to make how staff can better understand boys, so on and so forth. But out of all of them, I've never really touched on how these units were ran, and by that I mean the rules these units had. So that's what I'm going to cover today. Out of all the units, I'm going to go through each one by one and basically explain how they were ran, what rules were implemented, and what was really kind of the outcome of those rules, and kind of give a bit of perspective onto that. So, kicking it off at number 4. Yeah, number 4 is my first unit. This unit was it was kind of like an open unit in a sense, and by open I mean you had a lot more freedom. Of all the units that I've been in, this one definitely offered some of the most freedom, but the second most freedom you could get. It was ran. It all just depended on the shift that was in. Would depend really how well of a good day you were going to have in terms of rules being ran in that unit. In terms of running away, the running away rule in all units is kind of blanket. It's kind of like a blanket rule. First of all, it's normally social work got phoned, and then local authorities, blah 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 blah. With this unit, it was quite a funny one, and I remember that when multiple times when I used to run away from that unit, and I used to do it with other young people who'd been in that unit longer than me, would end up saying, yeah, you've basically got an hour. So they used to give you 1 hour to run away, and that was usually, I'm thinking it was due to, it's giving you that bit of time to come back on your own accord, or if it was because the police station was actually 2 minutes down the road, they didn't want to, exactly make it too easy for you. The rules in that unit were very, in terms of, so one thing in the unit is there's a lot of young people. And one of the big rules was you were not allowed to go into each other's rooms. And I really don't understand that in units. It's like the staff don't want boys to talk about things, and I honestly feel it's a really stupid rule. Now I can understand why, that system is there. You don't exactly want boys planning, running away or assaulting a staff member and all that shit, but you don't really need to, the staff don't need to be that nosy, you know what I mean? 9 times out of 10 the boys aren't going to be fucking talking about, we're going to stab this staff and we're going to spike this one, we're going to do the bail, this and that. It's most of them just want to be by themselves and have a fucking laugh. Like, it's a bit daft. So there wasn't really a lot to that unit in terms of its rules, so that's why I'm not going to really continue on that unit. It was just really a basic ass unit. It really wasn't anything special, to be honest. Unit number 3, which is number 3 we're going to go into, which is unit number 2, but in the list it's number 3. So this unit, this unit was a dumpster fire. That's the best way I could put it. An absolute dumpster fire in its rules. It was run by some really nice staff. There was a lot of good staff, there was a lot of bad staff. The rules in the unit were pretty lax. You could go to other young people's rooms, you could sit and talk to them and all that stuff. In terms of running away, it was kind of a 50-50 way, to be honest. Depending on the shift, the staff would come look for you, or they would just get the post to come look for you. All just depended on if the staff could be asked in it or not. One of the biggest controversies I think I had in that unit was one day I'd had a big incident and I'd kicked off, but I'd calmed down, so I was going outside for fresh air, and I was informed by the staff that I could go outside for fresh air. And I remember walking down the hallway, and the next minute the manager and deputy manager comes flying down behind me at 200 mile an hour like a goddamn elephant, and starts trying to rugby tackle me onto the fucking street. Didn't have his badge on, neither did the deputy. None of them had their badges on, which when taking a young person outside, you certainly need to have. And personally speaking, if you're going to try to drag a young person from public back into a unit, don't fucking do it. Just don't. Because it makes a situation 10 times fucking worse. And that's exactly what it did, because I remember I ended up basically getting caught after making them do Ring a Ring of Roses when the fucking unit motors, when they were grabbing me and taking me back. I specifically remember, and I deliberately did it, as I remember shoving the staff member into one of the unit motors and he smashed the seat off it and it did cut his head. And at the point I was like, that's what you fucking get for chasing me outside without your badge. You know, that's what you get for trying to grab me in public. You know what I mean? Because he overreacted. I was informed by normal staff that I was allowed to do that, but it said it wasn't. Now, we're going to get onto the one of phones in that unit. Phones were, well, in any unit, phones are quite a controversial thing. And my final unit has the best rule of that, which you will find out. Uh, Phones in units for young people, for at least the young people, having a phone is basically your life. That's basically what gives you that normality, allows you to communicate with your pals, you know, allows you to speak to your family, so on and so forth. Units don't like that, apparently. Now, I can understand why they have these rules in place, which is to stop young people absconding, getting drugs and all that brought into the units, etc., etc. But staff need to step up their game with that. Staff need to be... If staff really don't want drugs and drink coming into the unit, staff need to take their fingers out their arses and deal with that way. Taking a phone off a young person, especially during a mental breakdown, is the worst thing to do, and especially after having a breakdown, it's the worst thing to do. I remember on multiple occasions the staff would try to take my Xbox or my phone, and I would sit in the hallway and I would kick off the entire night. So if it happened in the back shift, I would sit in the hallway right outside the staff office for the entire night. I did not give a fuck about the other young people in the unit or what they said. I don't care what they would say to me. If I ended up in a fight, I would end up in a fight. I didn't care. But what I would do is I would drag it into the night shift because I knew for a fact the night shift couldn't be asked with it. They just couldn't. And they would end up saying, well, you go to your room if we give you it. And I was like, aye, that's all I want. I just want my stuff back. You know, I paid for my phone legally. You cannot have my phone. Legally. You do not own it. It is not your property. You cannot have it. Of course, when you try to explain that to the day shift, they don't really give a fuck. But the night shift are a lot more understandable, which is why I like night shift members a lot more than day shift members. And they would give me the property back. Well, that's kind of how that unit ran with that. It's really difficult to kind of say our unit's rules because there's just so many. And there's some that aren't important and then there's some that is important. So on to number 2, which was my second last unit. This was a little cottage unit and it was maximum 2 young people in it. Now beforehand all the other units had anywhere between 8 to 10 people in it. And before then it was mixed gender, so boys and girls, which also has issues within units as well for some reason. So this unit was a 2-man unit and it was always ran by normally just 1 staff member or 2 staff members. And this was basically a mature unit, so this was a unit for adults basically. And it was a wee tiny place, really nice place. Staff, top notch. I was not actually meant to be put in there, but I was put in there strategically by my social worker. Because my social worker realised that my second last unit was right across the road. So they put me in this cottage and were trying to basically make me go to that school. And I was basically told if I miss 1 day, I am getting put in that unit. And of course, well, that happened. In terms of the rules in this wee cottage, very lax, very, very lax. It was basically just do as you're told, just act mature, act like an adult, and there's not really going to be an issue. And that's basically how that unit went. In terms of your phone, you were allowed to have that all night. They treated you like an adult. They treated you like a fucking human, which is something that I had a lot of respect for. And I really didn't have a lot of restraints in that unit. That was probably one of my lowest restraint unit. I maybe had 1 or 2 restraints within that unit. Aside from that, I actually loved that unit out the most, to be honest. It was really easy going. Staff were absolutely amazing. The rules were just act like an adult, be yourself. You know what I mean? It gave you that bit of that maturity. It made you feel like a human, which was really nice. So my final unit, number 1, the one that has the most fucked up rules out of them all, and anyone who is watching this will know about what unit I am on about, and if the staff are watching this, you'll also know what unit I'm on about. So, this last unit, the glorious unit of them all, this one had the biggest fuckery of the most stupidest rules I think I've ever seen. So this unit was turned from an ex-secure, so it was once a secure unit, and it had been turned to a residential unit. And that was kind of a big telltale sign of the fucked up rules that we're going to comply. So when we went in, the first thing the staff tried to do was get all your property off you, so your phone and that. And I'm sitting there like, why the fuck are you just trying to take my phone? Keeping in mind, I've been in units that are pretty lax on that. They'll take your phone at the night. But aside from that, it was pretty lax in terms of the phone. First thing the staff do, they take all your property, they search all your property, which is kind of default procedure. And it's default procedure, but it could be done a bit better. And they give you this big bit of paper and they're like, sign here, sign here, sign here. Now, they don't tell you what that's for. They don't. And it happens to every young person that comes in. And basically, what I ended up finding out was what they make you do without informing you is basically giving them full ownership of your property. So your phone, your console, blah, blah, blah. Which, looking into it, looking through a lot of legal documents about how the care system is meant to be ran, that actually goes against some of the big rules in terms of the property, and especially ones regarding mobile phones. And basically, the only time a phone is meant to be basically taken off you by staff is when there's basically reasonable suspicion to. So if you're trying to get drugs in, if you're trying to plan, I don't know, a killing or something, something that's putting you at risk and others at risk, something that requires reasonable suspicion. They make you sign this contract, so that doesn't happen. You also have to sign a contract that stops you going on a PC till social work say you can. You're basically, when you first go into that unit, you're limited to one of two things: your bedroom or the living area. And if you want to go into the games room, you need to have a staff member with you, if there's more than one person in it. Which, personally, I think's a bit bullshit. Like, what type of fucking rule is that? Every young person who has been in that unit, and any young person who's watching this who has been in that unit, will know all about the timeout bullshit. See, the way to piss off a young person the worst is to degrade them, which is also against the rules of care units from the big document I've read, and I've actually got it on my laptop, and I'm actually currently compiling a case to possibly sue that unit on this matter, because it's bullshit. So, timeout chair. Like, how the fuck is a young person meant to give a staff member respect when a staff member is expecting someone to sit in a chair for 30 seconds for saying the word fuck, or shit, or cunt, or bitch, or arsehole, or fuck a kangaroo balls or some shit? How the fuck are you expected to sit on a chair for 30 seconds? And the best part of this is, if you say to a staff member, oh fuck off, as a joke, they will give you 30 seconds. Now, there is some staff that will take it as banter, but I'm just regarding this in terms of the staff that are dicks. They'll give you 30 seconds, and if you say, fuck off, I'm not doing 30 seconds, they'll go, that's a minute. Like, well, fuck off, that's a minute and a half. And the maximum you can get is 15 minutes. So you're made to sit on a fucking chair, a wee puffy chair, sat against the wall, staring at a fucking bookcase and a mirror that's in you in the hallway, and you're made to sit there for 15 minutes. Whilst all the other young people are trying to distract you. And if you get off that chair, you have to restart that. So if I do 14 minutes at that 15 minutes and I have to stand up to stretch my legs, you've got to do your 15 minutes again. Like, what the fuck? And that was one of the biggest things that caused a lot of issues within that unit, was the timeout system. It was stupid, it was bullshit, and it didn't need to be there. That was in the main part of the unit. The transition part of the unit, me and one other young person who is my best mate, who is a legend, who's basically like a brother to me. We got that rule flung out that unit pretty damn quickly. We got that unit rammed where the sun don't shine. So in the unit, it was called the transition unit. That unit got flung out very quickly. After speaking to the manager, and the manager it was actually quite, although we disliked him and he was a dick sometimes, he was overall quite a nice guy. And he understood that was a bullshit rule, and that if we're in a transition unit, we should not be made to do 30 seconds fucking timeout for saying fuck. I've been in units more than I've been in foster care, so I've been around that environment a lot more, and all those other units, I was allowed to swear till my heart was fucking content. You just got told, oh, calm it down in the swearing. I was surrounded by staff that swore, I've been surrounded by young people that swore. Swearing is basically my fucking second language. When you watch these videos, you see that I swear. it's something that I now do it's now basically a second language, for me at least. And the manager knew that, and that all got flung out pretty quickly. But back to the main part. The heads of the school. Now that was... The staff will definitely know, and so will the young people will know how painful it was with the original head of schools when I went into that unit. The two heads were old school, way old school. They didn't care really about what young people said. They did not listen to what young people said. They wanted it to be done harshly. And they didn't take into account basically, if you're Christian, atheist, or any of that shit. They basically forced you. I'm pretty sure it was like every Monday or Friday or Wednesday or all the days where you had to go into the gym hall and listen to him read a bit out the Bible. They didn't care if the person was Muslim, if the person was atheist, Christian, any basically of the things that people believe in, and all that stuff. They didn't take that into account. They force you to go in, which I'm pretty sure is also a breach of some shit. I need to go for that dog. There's a lot getting done with it. That was one of the big bullshit rules in that unit. And this went across all the wee units, because in the main complex, which was the extra bit, there was... pretty sure it was 4 or 5. So, yeah, I think it was 4 or 5. And it was just... the rules that were implemented into that unit were some of the most bullshittiest, No matter if you did anything wrong, they took your phone, they would take your TV, they would take all the things off you and treat you like a fucking child. And it's like, there's boys at 16, 17 in that unit, and then they're bringing in boys that are 12, 13, and it's like, these are treating us all like we're kids. And that's one of the biggest things that I would say out of all units, is some of them treat you like fucking kids. Now at those points I was a kid, basically. But for the ones who are not kids, they just give it blanket rules, and the rules are completely stupid and pathetic, and they need to get changed, to be honest. Luckily with that unit, they chose to give the young people the chance to pick a new head of school, which thank fuck we did, because the boys that picked the head of school picked the best fucking one they could, and he instantly changed a lot of the rules in that school, and most certainly for the better. One of the biggest dumb things in that unit was the cooks. You wanted food poisoning, you wanted your arsehole fucking screaming at you every night, that was some of the food you would get. That shit was worse than, like, one of my friends has actually ended up in a place where you would suspect that would have worse food, but that food was actually better than St Philip's food. And I'm not going to say what that place is. HMP. And I've been told that I've quite a lot of folk that prison food is better than St Philip's food, and that's saying something. When a unit's food is worse than prison food, that's when you need to kind of question life. But that is that. So that's basically kind of the basic principle of the rules of all those units. I will go into this into a lot more detail in a future video, but I just kind of want to give you all a basic insight to the rules of how units were run. Oh my god, I just forgot I had a fucking coffee sitting there. Question, anyone ever done that? You had a coffee sitting there, you're doing something, you completely forget about it, and then it ends up freezing fucking cold and nasty. Like, go to fuck. Anyway, there'll be a future video going into deeper insight on this, so I'm going to leave this video here as I've dragged it in enough. I don't want to bore you too much. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, I hope you've found it a bit informative. If you know anyone who's within the care system or left care, or someone you could find this could help, send them, share it to them, share it with your friends and family, bring awareness to it. As you know, Ex-Care Kid Scotland, our aim is to change the care system as a whole. There's a lot of care companies within Scotland that like to do that, but we want to do it at a brute force pace. We want to do it we are the spearhead of it, where we get the more important rules changed, where we get the full system changed to better benefit young people in their development in life, as well as staff in their development in their working career, and also building longer lasting relationships between staff and young people. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on